So, okay, so recording in progress. Thank you for reminding 𝗥📥. And going back to the session introduction for those of you who are joining us for the first time, and I noticed that within that time period, a few more of our friends have joined in. Now, the second week of the month, we have a topic on relationship series. The third week of the month, we have a discussion on meta coaching series, and this is the fourth week of the month, so we have the parenting series. So that's basically what we have been doing over and over again. So I again would like to welcome all of you, and I appreciate your being here. And I notice Satria just coming in. Right. Okay. So before I continue on, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Mazuki, and what I do is I help people to systemically develop skills in leading, communicating, and coaching so that you can bring out the best in yourselves and others. By actualizing that, you bring more meaningfulness and joy into your life and the lives of others around you. Next thing is I would like to invite each and every one of you to quickly introduce yourself. We've got quite a good number. I'm so excited by all these numbers. So what I'll do is I will call out your name and you introduce yourself just by saying your name and where you are calling from. So I'll begin with the top left corner of my screen. So 𝗥📥, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, 𝗥📥 from PJ, Malaysia.
Thank you, 𝗥📥. And over to you, Marilyn.
Hey everyone, my name is Marilyn Chua and I'm from Klang, Malaysia.
Thank you, Marilyn. Next, Mary, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Mary Flor Serate. I'm from Cebu, Philippines.
Thank you, Mary. I go to Joji next. Go ahead, Joji.
Hi, I'm George. I'm from Philippines.
George. Okay, thank you. And next, Aishu.
Hi everyone, I'm Aishu from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia.
Thank you. And Cheryl. I hope I pronounced it right.
Hello everyone, I'm Cheryl Dagdag from Cebu, Philippines.
Thank you. And Emily, you're next.
So hi, good evening everybody. I'm Emily from Philippines.
Thank you, Emily. And Hashim, you're next.
I'm Hashim calling in from Klang.
Thank you, Hashim. Next, Dr. Shakir. You are muted. We can't hear you.
Hi, I'm Shakir Mustafa from Kuala Lumpur, around Ampang area. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shakir. And Satria, you're next.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Satria Yusof from Kuala Lumpur. By the way, Mazuki, I joined you 1 hour tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
You're making the time to be here. Thank you, Satria. Next, Jade, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I'm from Cebu, Philippines.
Thank you, Jade. And next, Rachel, go ahead.
Yes, hi. Good evening, everyone. I'm Rachel, and I'm from Cebu, Philippines.
Thank you. And I don't know your name because your screen says Galaxy A20s. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Jayan from Cebu, Philippines.
Thank you. Again, your name?
Jayan.
Jayan. Thank you. And next, Elmarie.
Hello, everyone. I'm Almarie. I'm from Philippines.
Thank you for joining us. And Brandon, go ahead.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brandon, and I'm from North America. And I'm here to network, develop, and to gain long-term friends like you.
Thank you. It must be early morning for you at this hour,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Yes,
Okay.
8 a.m.
Okay, thank you for joining us. And next, Mark, go ahead. Is that Mark or Deidre? You are still muted. Ah, Mark. You are still muted, Mark.
Hi, Mr. Mazuki. Hi, everybody. Hello. Hi, everybody. I'm Mark from Klang.
Thank you for joining us, Mark. And next, Fariza, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Fariza from Singapore.
From Singapore, thank you for joining us. And next is Sam Lewis. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Sam. I'm from United States.
Oh, you're calling us from the United States. So thank you very much for joining us. So with that, everyone, again, welcome. And it's an honor for me to be meeting with you this evening. And for those of you in the United States this morning, we are talking about the topic on getting how to raise our children to be lifelong learners. Now, the thing about learning is that most adults stop learning after they finish high school, after they finish university. And I had an interesting experience just a couple of hours ago, less than 2 hours ago, just to show you that people stop learning after they leave school. Apart from doing training programs for individuals, I also do corporate training program. And just a couple of hours ago, a client of mine just called in to say that, I'm sorry, the program that we have scheduled for Monday and Tuesday has been canceled because we don't have enough people signing up for the program. And that is a commonplace. I work very closely with HR training executives, and the big headache for them is when they schedule training programs, getting people to the training programs. If they need to have 20 people in the room, they'll send the email invitation out to at least 60. So it goes on to show the fact that a lot of people don't learn after they finish school because of the pain that they went through when they were at school. The pain, they equate learning with pain. And that is why many people after school, once they start working, instead of learning, they divert the attention towards entertainment, whatever diversion that they can have, because learning is painful. Now, what we need to realize is that we need to realize about the power of learning. Because if you were to think about it for a moment, everything you are today is a function of learning. Everything that you are today, you learn to be who you are today. That's the interesting thing about human beings. We are born without content. We don't know how to become a human. Human beings need to learn to be a human. So that is why, for example, in the Malay language, we have this saying, parents would say that, I hope that when my children, when they grow up, they become a human being. In Malay, we call it, bila anak dah besar, dia akan jadi orang. Orang refers to a human. So because the opposite of human being is non-human. Their behaviors are behaviors that hurt or harm other human beings. So human beings need to learn to be humans, not so with animals. Animals are born with content. A cat knows how to become a cat. A dog knows how to become a dog. A horse knows how to become a horse without anybody or anything teaching them to be. That's why we don't see cats confusing themselves that am I a cat or a dog? No, they are not confused. Only humans can have that kind of confusion because they learn the wrong way. That's why they get confused. So you are who you are today because you have learned to be so. So that's why learning is so powerful. And learning is the heartbeat of humanity. We travel through the ages, and as we learn from our forefathers and the people before that, we become more and more now than the people who came before us. So humanity as a whole, we are learning to become better and better. And that is the process we call self-actualizing. The self-actualizing is becoming the best version of you. So learning is so important. Why is this so important? Because it is through learning that we develop skills and competency. So what skills and competency that you want to develop for yourself? Little children, they want to develop the skill of movement. You know, when they were just a little grub and they start to squirm, they struggle, learn how to move a little bit like a grub, and then they begin to struggle to stand and to walk. So in that way, we as human beings learn how to become who we are through that learning process. Learning is also how we are able to handle life's challenges. And I was just reading an article just a short while ago. I was reading an article that with the tail end of the pandemic, people are quitting their jobs because during the pandemic, they stayed home and they learned that, hey, there are other things that they can do apart from commuting an hour to work and commuting an hour back from work, spending their lives in cars or in public transport. And now they learn that they can work in other ways. From the article, just this June, there have been 4 million people who have resigned from their work, because somehow in America they have all of those systems in place to track all of those. So when people learn something new, they change. So that is also part of what you will be looking into afterwards. Why we want to learn? Because learning allows us to solve problems. How many of you have problems? I have many problems. Now, different areas of our lives. There are problems that in the area of job, in the area of work, in the area of relationship, in the area of health, in the area of wealth. We have problems. Now, when we are able to learn, it will make it easier for us to solve those problems. Another reason why we want to learn is because through learning, we have more options. With more options, we have more choices. The example that I gave to you about people quitting their jobs is because now they realize they have other options. They need not leave their families behind in order to work. So those are things that happen when people learn. And the other thing about learning is that it increases our intelligence, whether it is our intellectual intelligence, our emotional intelligence, or our physical intelligence, spiritual intelligence. All of those intelligences, when we learn, we are able to increase them. What we'll be covering in this session is that we are going to explore the structure of learning. Approaching things from the neurosemantics perspective, we will be looking at the structure of how we can get ourselves and our children. I noticed that some of you here, you are parents. I'm a parent of 5 children and also grandparent to 10 grandchildren. So, and some of you here, you want to understand this concept of learning better because you are engaged in schools, because you in schools as teachers, you want to stimulate the learning ability of your children. So again, I like to welcome our guests coming in from Frobel School in Cebu. We want to be able to learn and how to stimulate that learning process so that we can become lifelong learners. Because the moment we stop learning, that's when we become obsolete. We become obsolete very, very fast. So this session is not about learning tips. I typically give the analogy of a tree, a fruit tree. So typically when people look at the fruit tree, they'll be delighted with the fruits, and they begin to pick one fruit, another fruit, another fruit, how wonderful and sweet the fruits from the trees are. Neurosemantics perspective is we approach things from the roots, from the stem, and from the branches, because from the root, stem, and branches, then you have the fruits. So what we'll be doing is that we'll be looking at the structure of learning. And I was inspired to talk about this topic because just a few weeks ago, Dr. Michael Hall, the co-founder of Neuro-Semantics, gave a talk on learning, and it opened my mind to a wider dimension about learning. So this is what we'll be covering in this session today, the wider dimensions of learning. So what is learning? Learning can be, I say can be, not only, can be the gathering of data and information. However, if all that you do is gather data and information, you are not yet learning. You are a hoarder. Okay, so not yet learning that. Now, apart from gathering data and information, we look at the data, we begin to understand the data and ask ourselves, what did I learn today? So the question that we need to ask ourselves, I do quite a lot of reading from articles and all that. If I'm just reading and not gaining something different from that information, I have not yet learned. Because the moment we begin to learn, it makes a difference in how we live our life. So when you learn something, there is a difference in how you live your life. So that is one criteria or one way of looking at whether we are learning or not. Learning creates change, and that we can observe when there is something different in how we do things and in how we respond to things. Learning comes about when we are able to draw conclusions from our experience. We have new abstraction of meaning, and through learning, we enhance, empowers our abilities and whatever in the surrounding as well. So in human interaction, we keep on saying that we interact, we relate with one another from state to state. That is our mental and emotional state that defines how we interact with one another. So when it comes to learning, what are the best states for learning? So before I go into the specifics of it, because we want to start over here, because the states that you are in will will influence the quality of your behavior. Our states influence the quality of our behavior. Our mental and emotional state, it influences that. So the states for learning are two very important states. The state of mystery, something that I don't yet know, so it is mysterious. And the state of wonder. Wonder in, coming at something new. So learning states are the states of mystery and wonder. I'm smiling inside because just yesterday, my daughter texted me a conversation that she had with her 3-year-old son called Mayan. So Mayan went up to his mama. My daughter, Mayan, went up to Mama, and the conversation went like this. So Mayan asked Mama, Mama, are humans magical creatures? And then Mama was stunned and asked him, what? And he repeated himself, are humans magical creatures? So my daughter was surprised with that question. So I asked him, why? I can talk, therefore I'm magical. So that sense of wonder, probably because he's watching a lot of TV shows that shows that certain animals, because they are magical, they can talk. So since he can talk, therefore he's a magical creature. So this is one of the states of learning. So ask yourself, when you are operating from that state of mystery and wonder, how well are you learning, as opposed to being in the state of being bored and being apathetic about things. So information comes to you. If you are in the state of boredom and apathy, how well will you learn? So the learning states are the states of mystery and wonder. And those are the states that we want to evoke in the child. And as the child grows, to be able to evoke those states of mystery and wonder as the child goes through the learning process. Now, as parents, there are efficient or effective states that we need to be in. And those of you who have joined my sessions before, you know that I keep harping on these two states of parenting. The state of love and the state of joy. So as parents, when you are connecting and relating with your child from the states of love and joy, you'll be evoking the states of mystery and wonder in the child. And that's the key to getting the child to be operating from, to be learning and not stop learning. The reason why people stop learning is because they lose that sense of mystery and wonder about the world out there. Look at little children, they approach learning from these two states. Everything is a mystery, everything is a wonder. I want to explore things now. So this is the key secret to get your child, as the child becomes a teenager, becomes an adult, to have those states of mystery and wonder about the world, about the universe, about technology, about what's around them. And that child, that person, will be a lifelong learner. I mentioned to you in the talk that I attended that Michael Hall introduced to us. So from that talk, he shared with us the 9 facets, the 9 dimensions of learning. And though these are the 9 dimensions, the 9 branches of learning that I will be bringing to you this evening. And from these 9 dimensions, what we'll be able to do is that when we nurture them, it will help us to strengthen that desire for learning, and it will help to encourage the children to be lifelong learners. So very quickly, I'm just going to mention these 9 dimensions, and afterwards we are going to go through them one by one. So the first dimension is stretching. Learning requires us to stretch beyond our existing comfort zone. It's not comfortable to go there, so we need to stretch out of our comfort zone. Learning requires questioning, to question what's there and what's not there. Learning requires discovery. So discovering is another dimension of learning. The fourth dimension to learning is experiencing the process. The fifth dimension of learning is meaning making. If that doesn't happen, then the experience is meaningless. The sixth dimension to learning is experimenting. The seventh dimension to learning is focusing attention. The eighth dimension of learning is remembering. And the ninth dimension of learning is fun. So these are the 9 dimensions of learning, 9 facets of learning, that when we bring all of them together, or most of them together, that creates that desire to learn and create lifelong learning in the children that you are responsible for. So before I go into those learning dimensions, I'm going to pause here so that I can take any questions or comments that you may have. So let's pause over here for a few minutes. Are there any questions and comments so far? Just go ahead, unmute yourself, and then be here together. So anyone has got any questions or comments? Are you good with that? Okay. Right. Thank you. So let's, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 3 dimensions, and then I'm going to pause for questions and comments, and then go with another 3 and another 3. Okay, in that way, you don't have to wait until the end to ask questions. We can have a more active discussion. Would that be okay with all of you? Right, so let's take the first dimension, which is the dimension of stretching. Yeah. Stretching here refers to stretching out of the comfort zone. In order for us to learn, we want to, and especially in the context of children, creating that lifelong learning in a child, we want to challenge them to do things that they have not done before. And that's not very comfortable, especially when you don't have that skill yet. So challenging the person, the child, that helps the child to learn. It is not about rehashing about what you already know. So if you rehash what you already know, that is not learning. You are just revising, summarizing. Stretching out of the comfort zone means that now you are going into the zone of not knowing. It's very uncomfortable. So the question that you as a parent or teacher needs to ask is, what do they know now that they didn't before? So that's the quality control question that you want to ask yourself to check whether the child is learning or not. What do they know now that they didn't before? So when we talk about stretching over here, we need to look at what are the factors that prevents a child from stretching, and what are the factors that will encourage a child to stretch. So the away factors from that will prevent a child from stretching is when you as a parent or teacher is overprotective about the child. Another term that we frequently come across is the term of helicopter parenting, to be hovering over the child to prevent them from doing things that they do not yet know. Another term is mollycoddling, or trying to save the child from making mistakes, from hurting themselves. So when those behaviors are there from the parents or teachers, that prevents the child from stretching. So the behaviors that will help the child and that will encourage the child to grow and stretch and hence learn is to free them, to free them to do something that they've not done before, to let them stretch and let them struggle because they've not done that before. So allow them to struggle. So that's the part about stretching. And this is where I would like to invite you to be thinking of what are the behaviors that prior to this that parents have been doing that is preventing the child from stretching. For example, every time I go for my morning walk or sometimes evening walk, I go to the park. I notice that there are some parents, they want to exercise, they want to stretch themselves, and yet just a few of them I notice in doing that, because they've got a small, I was about to say a small child, but these children are already 1 year old, over 1 year, 2 years old. The parents are pushing them in their push chairs. So in that way, the child is just sitting back, not stretching. And the moment I see that, I say, oh my goodness, what a loss of opportunity there. Because had the parent exercised some patience with the child to allow the child to walk at his or her pace, to begin running, the child is stretching his or her capacity, capability, then the child will grow, then the child will learn. To be a spectator sport is not stretching, and therefore the child is not learning. So that's the first one. First dimension of learning, which is stretching. Next dimension of learning is questioning. So as a parent or teacher, you want to be curious about what questions do they have about things, about life, about what's happening around them. Do they have a challenging question? And more importantly, for parents as well, if you want to have to develop your children to be lifelong learners, what are your states when you are attending to those questions? One question that I remember my daughter asked me, she was about 5 or 6 at the time, now she's 24, when my daughter asked me, that really challenged me, was she asked me, Daddy, why is fire hot? And I went, fire is hot, everyone knows it's hot. However, I did not reply that because I realized that that's not the right answer. I realized that at that point in time, I didn't know the right answer. And luckily for the both of us, I was able to manage my state, meaning to say, I did not get upset when she asked me a question that I didn't know the answer. So I said to her, Fia, I don't know the answer. Why don't we look for the answer together? So it was only a year after that that I came to that answer. So when it comes to questioning, one end of the spectrum that prevents children from questioning is when they are being spoon-fed with solutions. The parents are there telling them what are the answer to things, and also parents who prohibit from the children from questioning. Why you keep asking questions? So many questions. Just keep quiet. Just follow what I tell you to do. So when parents behave in this way, the parents will will prevent the child from questioning. And because of that, the child finds it more obstacle to learning. Now, the behaviors that will help a child to learn is to encourage them to ask questions. So let them ask questions. And this is where, as parents and teachers, we need to realize that we don't know all of the answers. And to be congruent with that, to let the child know that even though you're an adult, you don't know all of the answers, and to look for the answers together. And the example that I shared with you was a life-changing situation for me, because when I was able to admit to my child that I don't know everything, then there was no more pressure. And little children, they appreciate that. If you don't know, tell them that you don't know. So we want to encourage them to ask questions, and we also want to be letting them to explore the answers, because sometimes there are many answers to a single question. So allow them to explore one answer and explore another answer. So when we approach children from this perspective, that gives them the freedom and, more importantly, the safety to ask questions, we are helping them to learn. It creates them that curiosity to continue learning. Next dimension to learning is the dimension of discovering. So the question that you as a parent or teacher need to ask yourself on a daily basis: what did they discover today? What is the new thing that they have discovered today? My son just sent me a short video clip of his son. His son plays the remote control car. However, he also have these Lego sets whereby he can put two wheels together and string a track around it, so it becomes like a treadmill. So he puts his remote control car onto that track, and he can run the remote control car at the maximum speed and watch the track just turn like a treadmill without the car moving forward. So asking the question, what did they discover today? And discover more from mistakes. So this is also why, as parents, we want to encourage our children to make mistakes, to not prevent them from making mistakes, to encourage them, because that will stimulate their curiosity. So are they encouraged when they make mistakes? I remember the time when I was just about to mention my eldest granddaughter. Her name's Azara, however, grandfather calls her Grasshopper. She's 13 now, 12, going to 13. Now, when she was about 6 months old, she doesn't know how to walk yet. However, she's such an active baby that she would crawl to the grill at the front door of our house and started climbing. So she learned how to climb before she can walk. That's how active she was. As grandfather, my role is just to prevent her from hurting herself. So instead of stopping her from climbing, I just quickly went to where she was climbing and just sat underneath with my hands ready. In case she falls down, I'll just catch her so that she doesn't hurt herself. Because it's important for her to have that sensation of falling so that she can learn about danger. My job is not to prevent her from falling. My job is just to prevent her from hurting themselves. So giving them the opportunity to make mistakes. So when we want to stimulate discovery in our children, we need to stop providing answers. Let them explore and discover the answers. So by doing that, we are encouraging discovery. So these are the first three dimensions about learning: stretching out of the comfort zone, questioning, and also discovering. So let me pause there and invite any questions that anyone has or any comments that you would like to make. You may go ahead. Marilyn, you've got anything? Okay, thank you. Thank you. St. Louis, thank you for that. Are you ready to go to the next three? Shall we? Okay, so moving to the next three. Let me just share my screen again. Next dimension of learning is experiencing, to experience things. All learning is experiential. When you don't experience it, you don't fully understand it. A good example is ice cream. You will not know how ice cream tastes until you have a taste of it. People can use all sorts of words to describe ice cream. You'll not fully learn what ice cream is until you experience it. So as a parent or teacher, ask this question: what did they experience? For example, two children playing in the playground and they started arguing with one another. Asking the question, what did they experience just now when they were talking loudly to one another, arguing? How are they experiencing that? And how are they making meaning? Because through experiencing, they are making meaning. So making meaning is the next point that we will be talking about. And as the parent or coach, this is when you need to put on your hat of facilitator and coach. It's not about telling them what they should experience. It's about facilitating the thinking process so that they can fully experience it and make meanings from there. Funny thing to me, I consider it funny thing about coming from training background, and some of the training programs that I conduct are all these experiential training program that they consider as team building and all that. We bring people to through certain activities, maybe white water rafting or rope climb. And what I notice sometimes is that instead of allowing the participants from experiencing fully and learning from those activities, I noticed some of those trainers were telling them that these are the learning points from this activity. So when you are telling, this is what that activity is about, this is what you should be learning from here, they are not learning, because those are words, those are experiences that comes from you, not from them. As a coach, facilitator, you want to facilitate that experience process and to allow them to feel that in their body. And once they feel in the body, to analyze or to think about what the thinkings are and how they are making meaning in their minds. So giving them or creating opportunities for them to use their own thinking, feeling process in creating meaning and experiencing things in the way that they experience. Because a particular activity that happens, people will experience it differently. So to allow that for them fully and completely. to acknowledge it for them. So that's experiencing. So one of the ways that parents prevent children from learning is they discount whatever that the child experiences and are too busy telling the child what they are supposed to get from that. Okay. Next learning dimension is meaning making. We humans are meaning makers. The issue about meaning making is there is no quality control. So we want to help our children to create that, have that their own quality control, because without learning how to quality control their meanings can be toxic, and because of that it can be hurtful or harmful. So through the meaning making process, that's how children learn to invent knowledge, invent concepts and ideas. I gave the example about Mayan just now because probably he watched on TV. There are some real life animals that don't talk, and he sees cartoon animals, creatures that talk. So maybe his sister tells them those are magical creatures, that's why they can talk. Okay, then he'll like, I can talk, so therefore I'm a magical creature. So this is part of the simplex logical process that he goes through for this at this particular time. Later on, he learned about more complex way of how logic works. But that process of meaning making, making sense and making meaning, he needs to go through that process. So asking the question whenever that they experience something, asking the question, what does this mean to them? And you can explore that with the child, because by exploring that with the child, by facilitating the meanings that they put, you are helping the child to create the logic circuit in healthy ways. So as I mentioned earlier, meaning making has no inbuilt quality control. So as parents and teachers, we need to facilitate that quality controlling process. Yeah. So this is where understanding of the meta model of language, understanding cognitive distortions that happens will be helpful for parents and teachers, because this will allow us to help the child to develop meaning-making processes that are healthy. Yeah. So one way that parents, one set of behaviors that parents do that prevents children from learning is to give standard or cultural meanings to things. So this is what this means, so therefore you have to take on this meaning. What we want to encourage, what we want to encourage our children to have is to encourage them to explore meaning rather than to tell them. And for those of you who've attended my program, I gave this example whereby I was playing with my eldest granddaughter. At that time, she was the only granddaughter. Grasshopper is in this very room that I am in right now in my home. So we were just playing. She was about 2-3 years old at that time. We were just playing, having fun, and grandfather is a fun guy who's her best playmate. So we were playing, and suddenly, whack, she swung her hand and slapped me across the face. So I was stunned at that point. I was stunned, and I automatically blurted out, "Why do you do that, Grasshopper? Why do you do that?" And the moment the question went out, I said, "Oh my God, wrong question to ask," because that's the interrogative question. Because the moment I asked that question, I could see her face like, "What did I do wrong?" kind of face. Luckily, my daughter was there and she understands the structure of language. So she asked her daughter this perfect coaching question. She asked her daughter, "Azahra, when you did that, what do you mean by that? And Grasshopper turned to her mama and said, Mama, it was a happy hit. No, she was happy. She hit me on the face. It's just that at 3 years old, she did not know about how hard to hit and where to hit. That's all. So Mama affirmed with her. So does that mean you're happy? Yes, I'm happy playing with grandfather. Okay. So the meaning. So she had that meaning of a happy hit. And that was the time that my daughter was able to facilitate the quality control of the meaning and the behavior. So that was when she said to her daughter and said, Azara, do you know that when you hit someone in the face, it hurts? And then she was shocked for a moment, and my daughter continued to say, just take a look at grandfather. Do you think that is hurt? So when my granddaughter turned towards me, I faked a pained face, and then she looked at me, I'm sorry, grandfather, I'm sorry. So this is what I mean by to facilitate the meaning-making process, because meaning-making has no inbuilt quality control. So as parents and teachers, you do not want to be telling them the meaning, because meaning is highly personal. You want to facilitate that. Okay. Next is the dimension of experimenting. Experimenting is about you not knowing something and you are making a guess. This is what it is. Then you check if it is true. So that's experimenting. And little children they love to experiment because they don't know if things are going to work out or not work out. So they experiment. So the question as parents that you want to ask is, what experiments did they do today? Are they encouraged to experiment? When my youngest daughter, when she was about 5 or 6 years old, she used to experiment with food. During mealtime, she'll take the rice and she pour in some water inside there, pour some ketchup, and then pour some rosehip syrup inside there. And when you ask her, I'm just doing some experiments, she doesn't know how it's going to taste. It's just that poor sister, the elder sister, or maybe sometimes the mother, because when my daughter does the experiments, she will not eat them. She will ask us to eat them. So luckily she didn't ask daddy to eat them. So I'm safe. But little children, are they encouraged to experiment? So when we talk about experimenting, how parents and teachers prevent children from learning is when you prevent them from experimenting. The only time that we prevent them from doing something is when they are about to do something that for sure we know is going to be hurt or harm them. For example, they take a knife and then they want to slash their hands or something like that. So that's when we stop them and say, knives are sharp and it's very painful. You will hurt, you will bleed. At other times, we don't know, allow them to experiment, even though it's going to be uncomfortable for you because you have to clean up afterwards. Yeah. So another way that parents and teachers prevent children from learning is when you start giving answers. They're about to experiment something and you straight away tell them the answer. No, if you have to do that, it's not going to work because this and this is going to happen. So that kills their desire to experiment and that kills their desire to learn. So as parents and teachers, you want to have an open mind, something that you have done before that yield result A. It could be under this scenario, this situation, when the child does that, something else might happen. We don't know. So having an open mind. So this is where the saying of Fritz Perls is apt in this situation. Lose your mind, lose all of the concepts that you have about something and come to your senses. Let the child experiment and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to pause there and take a few questions. I see the question from Aishu. Thank you, Aishu. So what are samples of questions we can ask if our child does something undesirable? What kinds of questions we can ask if they are not motivated to study or do homework? I'll take the first one. If the child, our child does something undesirable, we want to know what is the child's desire in doing it. It is undesirable to us, but as far as the child is concerned, what is the intent of that behavior and what is it that they want to achieve? I gave you the example of grasshopper smacking grandfather on the face. Her intention was to play. It's a playful hit. You know, when you play around, you hit. Just that at 3 years old, she did not know that hitting on the face is painful. So that behavior is undesirable to us. But what is the intent? We need to go into the child's mind, understanding what is it that they desire to achieve. Because it is undesirable to us. That's our value system. We are making judgment based upon our experience. However, as far as the child, what do they want to achieve? So this is where the coaching question needs to come in. Asking the question, what is it that you want? What is it that you intend to have? What do you want to achieve? Asking the question of intention, asking the questions of objectives. So these are the questions that we want to ask. The well-formed outcome question, what is it that you want? What is it that you want to achieve? And how are you going to get there? So those are some of the well-formed outcome questions that we can have a conversation with our child. Okay? And if they are not motivated to study or do homework, same thing. It's about meaning. Children do things when it is meaningful to them. For example, I give you the example of grasshopper. Thank you, Satria. Hope to see you next time. I gave you the example of, not grasshopper, my daughter Sophia, doing the experiment with food, different kinds of water, different kind of sauces that she puts into food. Not once, many times. She went through a phase doing that. Notice how motivated she was doing that. And notice how your child is so motivated to do something. They are motivated because they have a motive. There is an objective to achieve. The reason why they are not motivated to study because they don't have a high level meaning about studying. So if you want your child to have high motivation to study, to have that conversation, to have that coaching conversation, to explore meanings about studies. What is study for? A good example, people who drop out from college. Steve Jobs is a very good example about dropping college. He dropped out of college not because he did not value the degree. He did not because he not value learning, but his motive for dropping out of college is so that his parent need not spend the money for his college fees, because the parents work all their life to save money to send him college. And he thought, that's crazy. They need not pay the fees. I can still learn. And he became what do we call that? He dropped out of college and he stayed and he attended lectures freely. in college. So his motive to drop out of college was not because he doesn't value studies, but he doesn't want his parents to spend their hard-earned savings. So with respect to a child, a boy or a girl who is not motivated to study, we need to explore what meanings that they put to study, what meanings do they put to the behavior of studying. These are the things that we need to explore, because for a human being, the reason why we do something, this is the motivation axis. Yeah? The motivation axis, one is going away from, the other is going towards. Why you want to move along the axis? Because you don't like things over here, you want to move away from, and this is what you like. For example, eating. You don't like being hungry, so that's why you like to feel full, so that's why you eat. So that is that motivation axis. So for a child to study, so this is studying. What is it that they don't like here? What is it that they like here? The issue is this behavior called study, they cannot see. What's the like? What's the pleasure here? So since they cannot see that, so there is no motive to do that. So this is where the skill of coaching, the skill of facilitating comes in. Okay, I'm answering that in general because each person is different. Every child is different, and they have different motives of doing things. Okay, so thank you, Aishu. I hope I've managed to answer that second part of the question.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Marzuki.
Thank you. Yes, anyone else has any questions or comments that you would like to make? Marilyn, do you have any problem getting Xander to be motivated to swim?
No, no issues getting motivated to swim, eat.
When you mention eating, I don't know how many of your parents who have trouble motivating your children to eat, because Abraham Maslow puts it that human beings don't have instincts. They have remnants of instincts. They call instinctoids. However, the strongest of this remnant of instinct is the instinct to learn. That's why little children from a very young age, they have this insane desire to learn. To the extent that they would rather learn than eat. Their motive for learning is stronger than the motive for eating. So that's why when they are playing something, you tempt them with food, many children will just forego food because playing is more important. Because play is learning, learning is play. Because children learn through play. So that's the final point that I'm going to make. So that's why they are not motivated to eat, because playing is more important. So if you want your children to be motivated to do something, you need to explore the meaning-making process so that that thing that you want them to do becomes highly meaningful for them. So in the case of Sophia, when she was little, her elder sister, Ŝaɪma, Sophia and Ŝaɪma, they have close to 14-year age gap. So as far as Ŝaɪma was concerned, Sophia was her living, breathing doll. So she treats Sophia like a doll, a plaything. Okay. So when Sophia was not motivated to eat, she'll make the food in small pieces and calls them Pokemon food. The Pokemon, they eat tiny bits. So when her sister makes food of that size, Pokemon food, okay, she'll eat the Pokemon food. So creating those meanings, that creates the desire for doing that. San Luis, you put in over here, how do you suggesting handling multiple small children that are different ages, who may be exhibiting the different learning dimensions at one time? Thank you very much for that question. This is a very important concept. So that's why from the Montessori perspective, they would rather put children of different ages and different stages in a particular room, because the primary way for learning with when it comes to children is through modeling. Children learn through modeling. They model the people around them. The reason why they walk on two legs, because they see their parents walking on two legs and they model that. So that's why they learn to stand on two legs. So what you do is that with children of different ages and different stages, give them different roles to play. The elder one helps the younger one, and the younger one helps the elder one in different things. So in that way, they are creating a mutual learning environment. So this is how you create that. At the same time, that's why I mentioned to you the states for parenting and similarly the states for teachers as well. The state is the state of love and joy. So when you are operating from the state of love and joy, the children under your charge will be doing, for example, the elder children will be helping the younger children out of love and joy. Why? Because you are helping them out of love and joy. That's how they model. I gave this example for those of you who have been to my sessions before. Grasshopper, at that time, she was about 6 or 7 years old. So I went to their home, and today grandfather wants to bring them to Nemi's home over here so that they can play over here. So they were excited, getting ready. So I went to their home and everybody was ready and they came out. It's just that my daughter, she's struggling with a bag that she needs to bring to our home. By that time, the children were outside of the house door already. And from inside the house, my daughter called out to her eldest daughter, Azara, can you help me with this bag? So 6 years old, Grasshopper, when she heard her mother asking for help, her answer was, of course, Mama, I would love to do that. At that point, you went right here. And I nearly cried hearing this 6-year-old girl answering to her mama with such love and tenderness. And I asked myself, how did she do that? I'm referring to my daughter. How did she raise her child to the extent that at 6 years old, she can answer it that way? And then when I backtrack about how my daughter was handling her daughter, then I realized no wonder Grasshopper behaved that way. Because when Grasshopper was about 2 or 3 years old, she was a very picky eater. How many of you have that children who are picky eaters? It's just that every whim and fancy of her daughter, my daughter would just do her best to accomplish that. Imagine in our house over here, all of us are seated at the table about to eat, and my daughter has already started eating. Her daughter beside her, and Grasshopper started to take the food and put inside her mouth. Mama, this is too pedas. I can't eat this. Pedas is Malay word. It means hot, spicy. She cannot even stand a little bit of spice, hot. So, Mama, this is too pedas. I can't eat this. And off she went, because she can't eat the food. So off she went. And my daughter called after her, okay, you can't eat this. Would you like a sandwich? Yes. and her daughter has already gone there, and she would stop eating her food, go and make some sandwich for the daughter. And when the sandwich is ready, she takes the sandwich and calls out the daughter, "Special delivery." And her daughter will come running down and take the food. And at that time, grandfather was thinking, "Oh my God, you're spoiling your child." But I said that internally. She kept on doing that. She kept on serving her daughter out of love and joy. And because of that, her daughter responded out of love and joy. Children learn through modeling. And the first thing that they model are your states. So that's why as parents and teachers, you want to manage your states to be in the best state, to be in the state of love and joy. Even though they are asking for the things that just are too crazy for you, to be in the state of love and joy and to attend to the child fully and completely. So once you do that in the classroom, you have children of different ages. They are interacting with one another out of the states of love and joy. Even when they are lacking in competency, the state, the intention of love and joy comes out in their behaviors. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Is there any other questions or points? Shall we move on to the next three points? We are coming to 9:17 already, so I do not want you to miss these points. Next 3 points are, one is focusing attention. Focusing attention here refers to the things that gets in their way. They want to do something, there are things that come in their way. So part of learning is to learn how to focus attention on what it is. So to resist from the things that get in the way, so that they learn to drive the behavior by the intention rather than attentional. Little children are attentional creatures. So whatever comes to the attention, that's where their focus goes. So learning is about being able to put their focus on the end game, on the outcome that they want, so that their behavior are driven by intention. So to be asking yourself the question, what are they focusing on? And sometimes as parents, we want to also be aware that we at times are the culprit that prevent them from keeping the attentions focused. So the question that you want to ask is, are they encouraged to focus? So when we talk about focusing attention, the behaviors that prevent children from being fully focused on what it is that they want to achieve are interruptions. Parents come in to interrupt. The child is doing something, parents interrupt. TV interrupts attention by, after so few minutes, commercials come in. So it interrupts a child's attention, and that prevents them from learning at a better level. So what we parents and teachers want to do is to respect them when they are absorbed at doing something, to hold ourselves, to prevent ourselves from interrupting whatever is taking their attention. Little children are so easily absorbed with things. For example, Mayan, he's 3 now. When we are playing in the house and suddenly he notices an ant. I mean, we adults, when we walk, ants are too tiny for us to notice. However, little children, they are much closer to the ground. They can notice ants. And he can notice an ant and say, "Grandfather, the ant is walking." And he'll be absorbed with the ant for a few minutes. It's quite commonplace for adults say, oh, it's just an ant, don't worry about that. So we are interrupting their process of being absorbed with something. So how we can help them to focus their attention is when they are attending to something, to encourage them. Oh, is the ant walking or running? What's the color of the ant? What do you think is trying to do? Where does it come from? To encourage them to be fully absorbed with what they are doing. In that way, we are helping them to focus their attention. Okay. Next dimension of learning is remembering. And actually, when I look at the 9 dimensions of learning, I realize that this is the one dimensions that schools focus on. You need to remember your times tables. You need to remember the elements chart, the atomic weight of each element. You need to remember that. Don't ask me, I can't remember that anymore. We go through life, we experience so many different things, and that creates many kinds of memories. So as parents and caregivers, we want to help to activate those memories so that they have vivid memories, and by having vivid memories, they have more things that they can recall. Yeah. So asking the question, what do they remember most about this or that? Events that creates joy or sadness, get them to remember the events and remember what they learned from the events. Things like, for example, one of the things that I miss most during this lockdown is not being able to go to my favorite forest with my granddaughter. It's just that when I go into the forest with my granddaughter, I say, what is it that you remember most about today's walk? What do you enjoy most? So having that conversation after helps them to remember things. Now, how we parents and teachers discourage children in remembering things is that we discount past experiences. Oh, that's not important. Oh, that's not useful. We discount them instead of holding those events as something that we honor, we treasure, because every event in our life is there to teach us a lesson. So teaching them to honor memories, not just the joyful memories, it's also the memories that bring sadness to us, because that sadness is teaching us about something that we may have lost. So to honor memories and to use fun remembering strategies about things that helps us to remember. Okay, and coming to the last dimension for learning, that is fun. Fun is about doing things that's joyous, that's discovering. So whenever I play around with my children, with my grandchildren, with my children when they were little, with my grandchildren now, is I ask them, are you having fun? And I look at the faces, not just asking them and listening to what they say. As they are doing that, I look at their faces to see whether they are having fun, because when they are having fun, they are learning. So when they are watching something on TV, ask them, what's fun about that? What do you remember most about that? If they are exploring some books, my grandson, Hika, he's crazy about anything that has wheels on it, whether it's bicycles or cars. He's crazy about those. So when he comes here, I have on my shelf, I'm just pointing in that direction. The shelf is just over there. I've got my old issues of performance cars there, and whenever he comes here, he'll just open up and he'll be salivating about the cars. So he's having fun, and when he's having fun, he is learning. So he's got a bicycle that he left at my house. Yeah, he stays about 400 kilometers away from here. So he's got one bicycle here. Whenever he visits us, he's got a bicycle that he can play with. And I noticed that the bicycle frame is slightly skewed. So meaning to say, he has thrashed that bicycle thoroughly. So he had fun doing that. And because of that, he becomes highly skilled because he learned how to handle a bicycle very well. Fun is what makes him learn so well. So how do parents and schools prevent our children from learning? Is when we force them to learn according to so-called conventional ways. Sit down, don't talk, keep quiet, and listen as what I tell you to do. Stop fidgeting. And when we force them to learn in ways that are not suitable for them, we take out the life, the fun and the life out of that learning process. No wonder when they become adults, they remember that learning is so painful. So, to help them to learn, let them play. Learning is play, and play is learning. My eldest granddaughter, Grasshopper, at the age of 11, she attended the NLP practitioner program and also APG program. It's just that I know that she's an active learner. So what I say to her is that do whatever that you need to do behind the chairs where people are seated. When you feel like sitting, you can come down and sit. You don't even need to sit on the chair. You want to sit on the floor, that's okay. And I noticed that at the back of the room, the other people are sitting and following the class. At the back of room, she is doing cartwheels and backflips at the end of the room. It's just that when we come to discussions, she's got everything there because she learns through moving. She's a kinesthetic learner. So creating the environment that is fun, because learning is play and play is learning. So those are the 9 dimensions of learning. So any questions about these 9 dimensions of learning? When you are able, okay, remembering slide. Let me see, remembering. Okay. Remembering is what prevents. Remembering is discounting past experiences. Discount refers to not counting. So meaning to say, you are saying that experience is not important. That experience is not valuable. So you are discounting that experience. And when you discount, you not count something, the child will just throw it out. You are saying it's not important. So that's why I don't remember. So not counting prevents it. So what you do is to help them to remember, you honor memories. When we talk about honoring memories, memories that creates joy and memories that creates sadness or even anger or doubt, whatever memories that creates emotion, to honor them, because every of the events, every of the experiences that they have are there to teach them something. So when we honor memories, they are learning from those memories. And then to metastate it, in neurosemantics, we call it metastate, to think in ways that are resourceful, that create resourceful states, to create the states of learning, to create the state of joy about those memories. So something that caused them sadness, they can metastate it with joy, because not joy about what caused them to be sad, however, joy from the learning that they gain from the sad experience. So now when they think about that memory again, they are not consumed by the sadness. However, they experience the joy of learning something useful from that experience. Okay. So a couple of points that I would just like to mention over here. Caveat, reminder, or caveat is warning. When it comes to wanting to create lifelong learners in our children, is that one is that children learn by example. So are you yourself a lifelong learner? When you are a lifelong learner, it makes it easier for the child to be a lifelong learner. It's not impossible for them to be a lifelong learner if you are not, because you see, children thrive despite the incompetencies of their parents. Thank God for that. It's just that if we want to encourage our children to be lifelong learners, we want to set that example for them. We want to continue to be learning. Another point over here is that I'm showing to you this slide of a fish. I wonder any one of you have ever come across this fish. It is called an 𝗟𝗛𝗡. An 𝗟𝗛𝗡 is rather curious. It has a set of eyes. It's just that with those eyes, it's got 4 senses. One sensor at the top, one sensor at the bottom. So when they swim, a pair of eyes, however, they have 2 pairs of pupils. So this is a metaphor that we use with respect to learning. I use this metaphor coming from Glenn Capelli. So the 𝗟𝗛𝗡, when it swims, it's got 1 pair of pupil above the waterline, another pair of pupil below the waterline. Because the pair of pupil above the waterline allows it to see predators and also food that is flying or on the branches. The one that is keeping an eye on below the waterline is where they keep themselves safe from predators. So that's how an 𝗟𝗛𝗡 swims. 1 pair looking above water, another pair looking below water. So the analogy that we are using with the 𝗟𝗛𝗡 is that above water, when it comes to learning, is the content. Mathematics, English, history, geography, that's the content of the learning. Now, when we talk about content, only about 20% of the content of what you learn at school is valid today, because the content keeps changing. And typically, by the time, let's say, a person goes through school, comes out from the university, even when they learn, say, something like engineering, by the time they graduate, 80% of what they have learned is obsolete. So when we talk about creating the lifelong learner in our children, it is not about the content, because the content keeps changing and becomes obsolete. So this is where we want to help the children, to facilitate in the children to learn the process for learning, because once they are skilled in the process for learning, then they can continue to learn new content that will be suitable for their lives. So the process here refers to how we learn. So they want to learn how to learn, the skill of learning, not just the skill of the subjects, but the skill of learning the subjects. So understanding the language of the mind, how the mind tracks what's outside there and brings the information inside. So from outside to inside. So that's the language of the mind. Schools nowadays, they are weak in the kinesthetic form of learning. They have the visual learning and also some auditory learning, and especially with the kinesthetic learning, schools are very weak in that particular area. So what is it that we can do with the child to help them to develop their visual, auditory, and kinesthetic modalities of learning? Because it helps to enhance that particular process. Another part of the process is what we call metacognition. This is how we make sense, how we make meaning, how we recognize something to be of value. So a child needs to learn. How do they learn best? For example, I'm very weak when it comes to auditory learning. So what I need to do is, for example, when I'm in the context of virtual learning nowadays, if I am learning something from the net, a video or whatsoever, I will be busily typing the notes. I'll have my mind map in front of me and I'll be busily typing notes over here, because typing notes, I bring in the kinesthetic element inside there, because I learn best by doing, not just by seeing or listening. And I know that I'm quite weak in terms of listening, to the extent that when people call me over just over the phone, if the conversation goes for more than 1 minute, I'll stand and walk, because I can get the information better when my body is moving. Luckily now with video, I have video and audio at the same time, so I don't need to walk as much because I have the video learning as well. Metacognition also involves how you construct concepts. So this refers to the cognitive development of a child from concrete to conceptual learning. The ability to know and to adjust your own strategies, because when you develop a strategy for something, that strategy may work for that thing, it may not work for another thing. The strategy that I have for learning mathematics is not effective to learn history. So I need to make some adjustment. So in learning mathematics, I use this strategy, but in history, I need to learn. So that's why I remember now, oh, no wonder when I was in school, I'm able to learn math very easily, but I struggle with history because I was using the same strategy for math and history. That strategy only works with math. So to be able to know how to change strategies in different situations. So this is what we call the twofold way of learning. Yeah. So what I would like just to mention over here as the caveat is that when we want to develop our children's lifelong learning ability, do not focus so much on the content, because that's going to be obsolete. Focus on the process. Let them learn how they learn best, and let them have a way of changing the strategy so that they can continue learning in a way that will surpass their school and surpass the university, and they take it into their adult life. So get them to be conversant with the process for learning. Okay, so having said those two things as a reminder, so before we go to the end of the session, just to remind you again how you can develop your children to have a lifelong desire for learning. Is it begins with you as a parent being in the state of love and joy when it comes to learning. Yeah. When you are in the state of love and joy, you'll be able to create that sense of mystery and wonder about what they learn. And to encourage them to continue have that freshness of appreciation in whatever it is that they experience and learn. So I'm going to the question that San Luis has put in here. How do you find a balance between content and process with homeschooling? And this is where, you know, little children, they play is learning and learning is play. So we need to be able to tell them that school is a game. And when you explain school is a game, they can play the game of school, because the game of school is different from the game of life. The game in school, the answer is at the back of the book. If they look at the questions, they don't know how to answer the question, they can go to the back of the book or ask teacher for the answer. That's the game of school. In order to excel in school, they need to know the answers at the back of the book. If they give the answers that are not at the back of the book, they are marked wrong. So in the game of school, there are right answers and wrong answers. It's just that in the game of life, there are no such thing as answers at the back of the book. I remember a Charlie Brown cartoon. Charlie Brown was talking with Linus, I think. Oh, sorry, it's Lucy. Lucy said to Charlie Brown, Lucy said to Charlie Brown, in the book of life, the answers are not at the back of the book. So we need to get our children to understand those are two different games, two different rules. You go into a football field, you cannot bring in the rules of hockey. You'll be whistled out, foul. You go into a hockey field, you cannot bring the rules of rugby there. So that first is to tell children the game of school and the game of life. In the game of school, they need to remember the right answers. It's just that in the game of life, they need to question those answers. In the game of school, they shouldn't question those answers. They'll be marked wrong. So let them understand that first and foremost. Then they will have the right expectation about school, because nowadays, when children, they go to school, why teacher give me that answer? I check on wiki, the answer is wrong. Yeah, I've got some students coming in like that, totally demotivated about going to school because the answers in the book of school are obsolete, giving them that perspective. So with respect to homeschooling, one is to focus on the process, meaning to say the process of how is it that they are getting in information, and then they need to be able to compartmentalize. So these are the answers. Using this process, I get the answers. Then they need to learn to compartmentalize. These are the answers that I use in my game of school. However, in the game of life, I have different other answers that I can use. In this way, it will not drive them crazy, because children are driven by truth. Or many children. When I say that now I'm feeling a little bit touched. When Grasshopper was about 6 years old. I'm sorry for those of you who are not familiar with me. I keep on telling Grasshopper stories because I learn from children so much. Ever since Sophia asked me the question, Daddy, why is fire hot? That was a turning point in my life. I made a decision. I'm going to learn from little children because they are so intelligent. The intelligence is that they can ask questions that I don't even know the answer. So when Grasshopper was about 5 or 6 years old, she learned that there are parents who don't tell the truth to their children. They hide truth. So one day she went up to her mama and said, "Mama, is it true that parents lie to their children?" And my daughter looked at her and said, "Yes, there are parents who lie to their children." She went up to her mama and hugged her and said, "Thank you, Mama, for not lying to me." Children need the truth because with the truth, they can chart out their lives. You need to download the latest data on your GPS in order for you to drive safely, whether on the streets of Kuala Lumpur or on the street of Cebu. It has to be the latest data. If you have obsolete data, your drive will be dangerous. So that's why little children are driven towards truth, because truth are what will keep them safe and allow them to grow. Yeah. So that's why using the process of learning, they come up with multiple answers, because in life, there is not only one answer. However, schools force them to select one answer as being the right answer. So to get them to learn in the game of school, this is the right answer. It's just that in the game of life, there are another 5 or 7 right answers. So when you are able to create that distinction, they will enjoy that homeschooling and enjoy the schooling part. And both the home part and the schooling part, they will enjoy. So not just the content, they know that the content that they are taking in is for the game of school. The process that they're learning, that's for the game of life. So I hope that gives you some perspective to that. Okay. So any other questions that you might have? We are almost at going to 10 o'clock already, so we've gone about 20 minutes past the time that we have scheduled this for. So before we end, I would like to invite each and every one of you to just give your comments quickly in a few words. So if you don't mind, I'll start at the bottom of my screen. Siti Afida, may I have your comments before we end the session? You are muted at currently. Okay, so I'll just move to Emily. Emily, do you have any comments or final question that you may have before we end? So I'll move to Randy. Randy, are you there? Thank you, Emily, for that. So moving on to Jade. Jade, do you have anything to say before we end our session?
No questions, sir. Thank you. I learned a lot tonight.
Thank you. I hope it's been useful for you. George, do you have any comments or questions?
Nothing, sir. Everything is very clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And San Luis, how about you?
I don't have any questions, but thank you for the information. It's very helpful.
Thank you. Moving on to Rachel.
Yes, no more questions also, sir. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. And oh dear, I forgot Galaxy's name. Okay. Are you there, Galaxy A20s?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for today. Actually, I don't have any question, and tonight's talk is very helpful. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And over to you, Elmarie.
I don't have any questions, sir, and thank you for giving us your time to learn a lot about parenting, and also as a teacher, we've learned a lot so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. And moving on to Jerrel.
No questions, sir. Thank you so much for tonight. This is very helpful.
Thank you. And Hashim, how about you?
Yeah, this is a great 9-point lesson for fathers, mothers, and grandfathers.
And grandfathers.
Yeah, it is still relevant.
Yeah. Not too late.
Very much relevant. It is very much relevant. Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you. And moving on to Brandon. Brandon.
Thank you so much for your contributions.
Thank you. I hope you gained something of use. And over to you, Mark. Are you there, Mark?
Hi, Mr. Mazuki.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, sorry, my internet connection is not very good today. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mazuki, for a wonderful session. So I'm here representing Deidre. She sent me here today to learn a thing or two about parenting and bringing up kids. But what I really learned about today is actually more, I think, important is that I as a parent have to unlearn a lot of things to learn new things, especially in today's lessons. So I think that these 9 key points are so important. And I've learned so much, not only as a parent, but also as a coach. You know, every time we learn things, it's, you know, it's, as you said, you know, it sets you up for the game of life. So the process of learning is really for the game of life. And I think that's really important. So thank you again, Mr. Mazuki, and thanks for the wonderful session.
Thank you. Thank you. And I guess the students who join your school through swimming, they are learning so much more in the game of life.
Yeah, value added. Yeah, yeah, that's really good. Yeah,
right.
Hopefully.
Thank you. Yes, Marilyn, go ahead.
Thank you, Mazuki, for the session tonight. I didn't have any questions because it's very straightforward and very actionable immediately. So it's something, you know, that yeah, it's very straightforward. We can then put into action immediately. And yeah, I'm glad to see that at least I got a few points there doing something right with Xander. But thank you. Yes, it's like what Mark said, we can use it also not only with our kids, but also with the kids that we coach. And I echo his words that it will set our kids up for life. So that's what we want.
Thank you, Marilyn. And I'd just like to read out from Siti Afida over here. She said that one important thing I take tonight, that children learn by example. So that is why we parents need to be on our best behavior. And you also wrote that Ibu Rose did mention that children are pattern detectors. So that's why our children, they can switch the way that they behave between father and mother. They can switch because they know this is how father operates, this is how mother operates, this is how teacher operates. So they can switch the way that they behave in front of these people. It is not about being manipulative, but it is about survival, because this is how I behave in order to be safe with this person. Yeah. So, and with this person, I need to behave differently. So they are pattern detectors in that sense. that is part of our survival. Yeah. So, and I absolutely agree with you on the last point you mentioned. Just need to learn more to be good parents. So there you go. So with that, everyone, thank you very much for being here this evening. It's been an honor for me to be with you. Probably the final words that I can give to you is that I mentioned that the greatest gift that a parent can give to a child is the gift of unconditional love. That's the greatest gift that a parent can give to a child. And yet right up there at the very top of the gift list is one of the best gift that you can gift to your child is the gift of lifelong learning, because we don't know what they are going to face. So we need to get them to learn for life. And how you do that is to be interacting with the children from the states of love and joy. So this is where state management comes in, to be skilled in managing our own states, so that at every point that we are interacting with our child, we are interacting from the states of love and joy. So with that, I would like to say here, thank you very much. I appreciate all of you for being here this evening, and I look forward to seeing you in our next programs. So those of you who are interested in parenting program, the 4th week of the month is when I focus on parenting. The first week is on neurosemantics, the second week is on relationship, the third week is on meta coaching. So with that, thank you again for being here this evening. May God bless you. All the best to all of you, and I wish you all the best. I hope to see you again soon. So good night, everyone, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good
Good night, Mr.
night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Have a good
Thank you so
night.
much. Good night.
Yeah, thank you. Take care. Love you all. Thank you.